This is Morgan Hazelwood, back again with more writing tips and writerly musings.
Today I'm back with Ask an Editor Longform Writing, tips from a Discom 3 panel. The panelists for the titular panel were George Drigi, Catherine Crichton, Nava Wolf, Trevor Quattree, and Joshua Bilmes as moderator. The description for the panel was as follows. What makes a good novel? How do you know when it's ready? Where should you send it and how should you respond to the comments? This is your chance to ask those burning questions of respected agents and editors. As always, they didn't really answer every question in the description, but they did share some valuable wisdom. Note in this discussion, we're mainly talking about acquiring editors at publishing houses, not necessarily freelance editors, although the answers may be the same for both. So first off, what aspect of a story is most important in long form in novels? Well, for every person, of course, the answer was different, that this is writing, but these rose to the top. First off, characters. The characters need to feel like real people with consistent worldviews and reactions. Secondly, you need to contemplate whether or not you're saying something interesting with the story concept, although that can be a little more important in short stories. Another option was, does the editor just plain want to read the next sentence to find out what happens? And another thing that can really make a story is to have a well-rounded cast, not just the main character, but the antagonist and the side characters. They all need to not just exist in terms of the main character. So, what draws an editor to a manuscript? Well, there were only a couple ideas here, but one was a story that raises a question that the reader wants answered. Bonus if only the important things are strongly described and if there's an interesting magic system. I mean, we are fantasy magic lovers. Okay. Another thing is writing that feels award-winning and a story where the editor knows or feels that they know how to fix it. So how do you choose the right editor for your manuscript? Where do you even find one? Well, the first spot you can look is at books on the bookshelf, especially at like a library or something. You want to look for books with similar feels and some in your genre near where your book would be put in like a bookstore. And then just check the acknowledgments. That's where you can find good ideas of who was the publisher, who is the editor at the publishing house who championed the book you're reading, and who is the agent that represented that writer. Since most publishers don't accept unagented works, most writers are going to start off with an agent. For freelance editors, you definitely want to make sure to give them a sample, a couple pages, and see what they can do to make sure that their editing style works for you. Now, you're probably going to start off by submitting or querying an agent, or maybe responding to publishers' open calls, but do know that open calls are an even worse numbers game. For any lengths work, you're going to find on the agent or the publisher's website all of the submission guidelines and whether the submission should be sent via email or an online form or even snail mail. A few places still accept that. But on that long-awaited day, when it comes time to be offered that publishing contract by a publishing editor, often writers will take the first editor that shows interest, and I totally understand why. But you need to be wary and protective of your manuscript. If it's not a vision that jives with your writing or it makes you uncomfortable, they may be the wrong editor for you. As Nava said during the panel, matching with an editor isn't the end of a writer's fairy tale. It's the quote-unquote once upon a time of what is hopefully a beautiful working relationship. Be honest with them, protect your vision, but stay open minded and be wary of your own ego, because it can be really easy to be automatically defensive. Think about what they're saying and what it could do for your manuscript. And do remember that selecting an agent or an editor is a job interview that goes both ways. You're seeing if you can work with them just as much as they're seeing if they can work with you. So, what happens if you and your editor are a bad fit? We're all human, I think. And it happens. It happens. So, in the majority of cases, both people are professionals. They grin and bear it, get the job done, and the book is published. Rarely a publisher might get involved and reassign the manuscript to a different editor. And in exceptionally rare cases, the contract might get canceled. Typically, this requires a lot of bad acting on the writer's behalf. So, when you're getting ready to send out your story, do you need a fully polished series? Well, yes and no. You should have your manuscript as polished as you can get it, both on your own and with the help of friends. But a good editor will be able to take a good story and elevate it. Most editors are looking for standalone books, a strong story in and of itself. But in speculative fiction, we do love our series. If the world or the characters makes the readers want to visit it again, and you've proven that you can work well with your editor, a series is often an option. Note, for short fiction, series are less popular. After a while, the backstory needed to make the story stand alone often gets too heavy. Trevor pointed out that as editor for analog science fiction and fact, he's drawn to readability, nice prose, and a certain level of science per page, with the science being developed along the story. So, do you need an agent? While you might expect editors to prefer to save the money of the agent's fee, the industry currently accepts most submissions through agents. That way they know that you have a contract specialist on your side and both sides feel less cheated. Plus, this way you have your own business manager to handle the tricky things like finding out your cover's crap. The agent knows how to negotiate that, or even tell if the editor agrees that marketing's idea of a good cover is questionable, and how to push for a better cover professionally. So let's think about the poor editors for a moment. Does being a professional editor affect reading for fun? Yes. It can be hard to read in their own genre or any genre. Sometimes reading old favorites can refreshen their love of reading. And sometimes you just gotta make peace with and learn to love the analysis process that just won't go away. Closing thoughts from the panelists: solicit a lot of opinions. Be open and honest about what you need during the editing process, and remember, it's people all the way down. It might not be you, it might be them.
And that's all for today. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button and share it with all your friends. It goes a long way towards helping people find me. And I'll be back again next Monday with more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye-bye.